Here's what happened. There was a phase in business that I went through called the spaghetti phase, where I threw all these different business ideas out there to see what the hell was going to stick. And there was a lot that were really bad ideas, and then others that were really good. But a theme that I noticed in those over 20 ideas that I found was that I would quit way too soon in a lot of situations. And that is something that has become a pattern and then a habit that I've had to work on changing. And again, I've talked about it before, you keep all of your habits, but it's just a matter of lessening the intensity of that habit and increasing the intensity of another habit, which is to keep moving forward, to keep going, to really know, is this thing not the thing for me? That is not in alignment. And I feel I'm not the only one in this generation of millennials, and not so much I know that I'm not the only one that has this problem of quitting way too soon and not being able to handle the uncomfortable situations that come up, the uncertainty, that stress that can build, the overwhelm, the anxiety that can build, being able to honor those, but then move through it. And relating to burnout, it's talked about a lot in business, but burnout is way bigger than just business. And especially thinking about quitting your business, no matter if that is you running your own business or being a part of a business. And so I want to get into it. So it's so important to be able to help you to open up your perspective more relating to burnout. And that's what I want to get into. This is Make Burnout Extinct. I'm Robert David Weeks. Thank you for taking the time to be here. Could be doing a bunch of different stuff. Distractions come up a lot of times. We all know those moments where it's like really being able to be focused and present. That can be difficult. So by you being here, that says something. And coming back to bigger than quitting your business, it's interesting to know what's going on right now for you in your life. What's coming up? If that is you've either quit the business or you're thinking about it, or you're getting close to not being able to handle that uncertainty, the chronic stress might be building up for you. Wherever you're at, I want you to know that I'm excited to get into it and deliver for you to open up your perspective more and to help you to navigate this uncertainty that can come up relating to burnout. So thank you for being here. If you are new here, please subscribe and follow the show for the latest episodes. I have a few commitments for you that I'm going to share with you. Those that are coming back, you know what to expect. First commitment is to continue to grow this show. It's been incredible to witness the movement. I shared it, I shared it today, the stats where this community is coming from 20 plus countries, 30 plus US states. And it's incredible to come back to this one mission of Make Burnout Extinct. And so I'm committed to continuing to grow this show and the movement that's behind this. And by you subscribing and following the show, that helps with that commitment. The second is being able to be honest with you. I know. There are so many moments I've talked about before where I have lied. And we've had those moments of lying, if that's to ourselves, lying to other people in our life. And there can be moments of being very uncomfortable and choosing, am I going to go the easy way out in the short term and not say the full truth or not say how I truly feel? Or am I going to do the hard thing in order to be more comfortable with actually sharing the truth and being honest? And I've had plenty of those times come up, even with this podcast and this show. And so I am committed to being honest with you, and especially when it's uncomfortable, being able to not just share with you the results of what Make Burnout Extinct can do, which is feeling energized. Feeling more energized. Because again, with Making Burnout Extinct, you don't just land there and then that's it. It's something you got to work on. The other one is to connect back to that aliveness of life. And then not just going through the day-to-day and the motions in your day, or going through the motions of your day. That's like how to put it. And then it's being excited for the momentum that's moving towards who it is you want to become. If that's going after the goals that you've set out or the vision that you've set for yourself, feeling that excitement. It's not just all of that, but it also is the hard work that's involved with this. The showing up, the putting those reps in when a lot of times people aren't watching you in those times. And you're going to have to do that for yourself, of creating that commitment for yourself to show up, put those reps in, to work on these burnout proof habits that are going to support you in making burnout extinct. And what I want to tell you is you're absolutely capable of this as a human being. You have the capabilities. And what I want to do is share with you ways to strategies, tools, ways to support you in this journey of making burnout extinct. So it can become easier. So you can have that certainty and that clarity as to the direction that you're headed for your life and your path. I go back to this quote from John Butcher, someone I really admire, and that is, there is no one right way, but there's a right way for you. And coming here, focusing on these conversations, it's about figuring that right way for you. And that's really important. So thank you for being a part of this movement, for taking the time to be here. Let's get into it for today. What I want to talk about today is that burnout is bigger than just quitting your business, your job, the business that you're part of. There has been a lot of talk online when I looked at burnout when I first got started with this show, and it related a lot back to work. Since then, burnout has now been put into burnout in relationships, burnout in your health and fitness, burnout in, I'm trying to think of what else. Now that I always go way too far for examples that come to mind, but burnout with friends, that could be another one that comes up. So it's expanded out, which I'm really grateful for, because what I want to remind you is that there are patterns that we experience as human beings. And those patterns have been created through the habits, those repeated behaviors that we've done over a long period of time. And there can be this pattern, especially as I come back to my generation and the pattern I noticed in myself, where I was quitting way too soon for different ideas I had with business. Because of the uncertainty that I started to experience, the uncomfortable sensations that were coming up in my body that I really didn't understand what was going on. But what I connected it to was, oh, this is something wrong. Something is wrong. Something is not right. So then I'm going to try to do something completely different, completely start from scratch and try out a new idea. And it gets into this all or nothing mindset that can be really difficult at times to navigate and break. But it is possible to be able to create a new habit and to shift it from, instead of all or nothing, continuous improvement. So when it relates to bigger than just quitting your business, burnout comes back to the body. So it is body related, where it is based off of what is happening for your body, the signals that it is trying to tell you when you are starting to get hit with chronic stress, the chronic exhaustion, and which is that first red flag of burnout that then creates this domino effect that can lead you to one way ticket to hitting burnout. And with patterns, like a great way to bring that into your day-to-day life is like thinking back to, we have so many patterns in either how we're walking, patterns in how we're cleaning our dishes. Like you may use for cleaning the dishes, you may have one hand that's scrubbing, and then you have another hand that's holding the plate. I think about that for me. I'm even right now, can you think of which hand holds the plate, which hands is scrubbing the dishes or scrubbing the plate and the other dishes? And I can't even really picture that right now with full certainty as to which one that is. And so we have these patterns that can get into what I go back to for the phases of the habit formation process, the autopilot phase of habit formation. And they're just going, and they're going on autopilot. And I really believe that this one of quitting way too soon, of not listening to the signals from our body that are letting us know that we are hitting chronic stress, we're hitting this chronic exhaustion, headed towards a one-way ticket to burnout. That is something I believe a lot of us have gotten into a habit of not listening to our bodies, not recognizing those signals from the body. And when you're just quitting your business and then you're going to move on to the next idea, which is what I did, or the next thing, because you got bills to pay, and you have people you have to take care of in your life potentially, or that you want to take care of in your life, and you're someone that is absolutely there to want to go support other people, But what can be then that habit is you're not taking care of yourself. You're not having that time to focus back on you. And so you might go through this cycle that happens where you try the new idea, you give it a little while, maybe 6 months, a year, 2 years, and then you quit from it because you're noticing it's becoming really intense for these sensations. It's getting uncomfortable. There's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of anxiety, and you're just like, this doesn't seem to be working. And so then you pivot to something else. And what I've noticed in this journey of making burnout extinct is it does take time. It both takes time to hit burnout and it takes time to make burnout extinct. And it is this spectrum where on one end you have that of hitting burnout, and on the other end you've made burnout extinct. And the reminder for you is burnout, how I define it, is a major life transition that is forced on you by your body. So it does come back to the body. And again, these signals, there are so many different signals that can come up. There's some similarities, but like the generic one could be this chronic exhaustion that you're feeling, the fatigue that's setting in, this overwhelming sensation, the anxiety that is building of uncertainty for your future path that you're headed for your life. All that, there's a certain level that the body can take. And it is like this balloon, you can think about it, where the body's filling up with all these different things. But it gets to a point where the balloon's going to pop, which is hitting burnout for the body, if you aren't able to let the air out. And that is where I get into the bigger than just quitting your business. Because, yeah, quitting your business may help you feel like you have more time to now just relax. And there could be a lot of stress related to work. But what happens is you may have that moment to break, but then you're going to just continue to potentially do the same thing and the same behaviors. And what that leads to is going to be the same results, which is then getting to the point of hitting burnout. And then you're in this cycle. And that's really what I want to help you to identify is that, oh, I'm in this cycle for myself. I'm in this pattern based off the habits that I've done. And so when you can recognize that, you can realize that it's not inevitable that you're going to go hit burnout. You can actually make the changes in your behavior to even avoid getting to that place and to that point. But it does take effort. It does take some hard work. It does take having to honor the resistance that naturally comes up from your body and be able to move through it. Because with that resistance, which I talked about it before with you, is that in the habit formation process, there are these 3 phases that I've identified that are body-based. Coming back to body-based, I've gotten inspiration from other people that are focused in the habit space through other forms of modalities. You can think about it in that way for life. But what I go through is for the phases here is the awkward phase, which is trying to figure out how you're going to implement a habit in your day-to-day life. It can feel awkward, a little weird, a little uncertain. That's like, starting a new idea. It's going to get messy. And then you move into this resistance phase. And this is where so many people drop off for both habits, for you can think about it with the business ideas. It's where you create a lot of resistance that comes up from the body. And the reason for that is because you've put in enough repetition where the body is, and this is how you can think about it, is the body is starting to realize that this might be something new that's going to be added into your life. And with anything new, it can create uncertainty. And so the natural response that can come up with uncertainty is then fear, that stress response of this fear of, I don't know what the future is going to look like. And there can be a lot of unknowns. And so the body does want to keep you safe and take care of you. And it's so important to acknowledge is that your body's there for you. And so what it can do is try to get you to go back to your old ways and your old patterns and your old habits that have created those patterns, because that is familiar. And with familiarity, there is certainty for what to expect. And that's where that clarity can come in. And that's where if you've gone through it for so long, your body could recognize like, okay, you're going to be safe here, even if it's not what you want. And I want to give some space for that. We're actually going to take a deep breath in to come back to the body, reconnect there, because that could be really hitting for you right now. And so let's take a deep breath in and release out. One more time. Let's do this thing. Let's get a bonus one in. Deep inhale and release that on out. So now I want to come back to what to remember. if you're in this space of struggling with the uncertainty, struggling with that resistance. Because what I can tell you is that third phase of the habit formation process is the autopilot phase. That's where it becomes less friction. That is where you get into these habits of repeated behavior. If that's brushing your teeth, as the example, if that is putting your shoes on, if that is walking, like imagine that 10,000 steps. If you're trying to do that in the day, are you consciously thinking about how your leg is moving for each one of those steps? No, that would be a lot of effort and energy. Your body has gone through so many times of walking that it's just become autopilot. Similar with cleaning the dishes. Like that's another thing I think about. I can't even consciously remember which hand I hold the dish, which hand I hold the plate, which hand I scrub the plate. It takes me a little while because it's gotten into the autopilot phase. And so what happens is it requires repetition in order to get to that autopilot phase. And when you get the most resistance comes up is when it gets so close to moving into that autopilot phase. And so coming back to these ideas of the business of just quitting your business, when you just quit your business, you may take a break for sure, but then what has to happen is having the space to notice the behavior that you've been doing that has led you to this point. And if you haven't gotten there yet and you're noticing yourself feeling a lot of stress, a lot of overwhelm, a lot of anxiety that's coming up, give yourself a bigger view, not just relating to work, because that's why it might be where a lot of focus is for stress, but what else in your life is draining? Is that the relationship that's draining? Is that your health and fitness of you're not taking care of yourself? If that's, I think of this stat that I saw that blew my mind, that it was 77% of young adults it showed are unfit to serve in the military due to health situations or drug use. That's wild when it comes to coming back to our health. And what I've said it before is burnout relates back to the body. Are we taking care of our body? Are we nourishing it with foods that are energizing for us, or are they draining for us? Are we actually getting outside in our day? That's another stat that blew my mind, is that on average, an American spends 90% of their time indoors. When I go outside, what I notice for changes is that my mood, my mood changes. I have a better mood. I then feel more relaxed. I can feel, especially if I've been in the sun for a long time and I'm soaking in for creating that vitamin D from the sunlight, I can notice myself getting into this like fuzzy, like relaxed feeling as if you're lounging on the couch. That can be that vibe. And I notice a change in then how I show up, for you for these conversations, how I show up for my partner, how I show up in my other aspects of work. And so I blew my mind at 90% on average. And for me, that's what happened for me. There were some days where I was spending like less than 30 minutes outside. And now my focus for a habit, and again, it goes back to perfection, doesn't exist. I'm not perfect with it, but is to get around 4 hours of outside time. But how I started that was incrementally increasing the time and starting small with that growth. And so for you, it's looking at what are these other areas in my life, and you can come back to your body specifically. What are the habits that are energizing for you that come back to your body? Are you sitting down a lot and getting into a sedentary lifestyle, or are you moving? Are you taking a few breaks here and there for movement? Literally creating movement, or let me put it this way: by moving, you're literally helping to produce more efficient energy through your body creating ATP and the mitochondria that are getting after it to produce that energy. So to funnel it back, what to focus in on are your habits, and noticing in all of your in certain areas of your life, and where you can start is your health and fitness. Start there and then expand out. What are the habits that you currently are doing that are energizing for you? You can write out a list of, up to 10 or even less than that to get started. You could just start with one. And then Write out what are all the habits that are draining for you. Because what I noticed for me was there was a lot of habits that were draining for me. Like I wasn't getting outside enough. I wasn't eating nourishing food. I was eating more ultra processed foods. I was noticing that at times I wasn't able to just take a moment to breathe deeply when something intense was happening for me. And I felt like I was breathing shallow. And so I was wanting to focus on taking deeper breaths. When I can focus on those habits to support my body, to build trust with my body, to make sure that I'm releasing the air out of that balloon for the stress and that overwhelm and that anxiety that can build. When I'm doing all of that, then I can handle the situations externally that are coming up with work. I can handle them so much better. I can handle difficult conversations better. I can show up and be more present in those situations. Or let me put it this way, to be present in where I feel connected to my body, and then being able to be more present in whatever is coming at me for the challenges that I'm facing. Because I do think that that's the one of the ways that we can feel relief by just quitting the business is because you stop doing things. You stop having to constantly go from one task to the next task to the next task without taking a moment to pause and connect back to your body and to get outside and create more movement, to be able to focus on nourishing foods for yourself. I just think we're so focused on putting our energy out into the work that we forget and we put on the back burner, we forget about ourselves and realizing we got to take care of our body. When you can start to put more energy towards those energizing habits, it's going to create a ripple effect in all these other areas of life. And then that creates more momentum. And it becomes then easier to move through and stick with certain things in your life. Then you aren't feeling like you're self-sabotaging as much. Then you feel like you aren't procrastinating as much. And then you can feel more of that certainty and more of that clarity of the direction of where you have to move forward, because challenges are gonna hit you. They're gonna happen in life. It's not if, but when. And in order to create a deep level of trust with your body and this confidence that can grow within you to know that you can handle all those challenges, it's important to have energizing habits, which I call burnout proof habits, that are supportive of the body, because the body is badass. You have nearly 40 trillion cells doing their damn thing of making sure that it's creating this harmony in the body and around the body. Burnout is about the body and understanding the signals that your body is trying to tell you when you're moving towards a one-way ticket to hitting burnout. The body will tell you when you're experiencing more stress. I know that for me, I have sometimes a rash that will form whenever I feel more elevated stress in my body. That's in between the eyebrows, the side of the nose. My life partner, she has psoriasis. The symptoms for her become more intense when she is experiencing more stress. But we tend to want to get something to hide those symptoms without realizing that that's our body trying to communicate to us. And when we can start to take some more time to listen, then we can know what behavior we have to change. It might be, instead of putting off the email for 5 days, just send the damn email out. That could be you having to have that hard conversation. Have the hard conversation. It's creating that space to determine what has to change for you to move forward and to move towards making burnout extinct. And what I want to tell you is that you have the capabilities to make this happen for yourself. I believe in you. If you haven't heard that yet today, I do. And so what you can do as a recap is to remind yourself of a bigger perspective here of burnout is interconnected with all areas of life. Recognize specifically with the health and fitness side of it, connecting back to the body, what are the habits that energize you? You can do at least 1 up to 10, writing those out. Then you can do what drains you, 1 to 10, and start to put a little bit more effort towards the energizing habits. And naturally, what will then happen is the draining habits, there will be less focus on those. And it can just grow and grow for more effort put towards those energizing habits. And then that will create that ripple effect where all of a sudden, not all of a sudden, it's going to take some time, but then it'll become easier to show up in these other challenges that you're facing, relating specifically, I think, about with work, where that's where burnout can be a big focus. And after you put the rep in for one of those energizing habits, please don't forget to celebrate. Literally celebrate with the body to remind the body that you want more of this. How I do it is I've said it, I tap my shoulders, raise my arms up, and go, yeah. Like, give yourself that win and that moment to celebrate. Because what it can do for the body too is release dopamine, that reward. And by you celebrating the small wins, they're going to lead to the big wins. You got this.